Today, we're looking at pedals. You have three touch points on your bike: grips, saddle, and pedals. Grips and saddle are really going to be about comfort. Pedals are going to be about control and confidence. So today, we're looking at our three favorite price point composite flat pedals. In this video, we're going to be looking at our two top-selling flat pedals and a new pedal that just came in quite literally today that I think is going to be worth consideration for a lot of people. We're going to look at these models, the dimensions, the weight, and things to take into account if you're trying to figure out what pedal is right for you. And this discussion may apply to a pile of different pedals out there. So even if you aren't looking at OneUp Composites, Crank Brothers stamps, or Marin Oso pedals, I think you'll be able to take something away to help you choose the right pedal for you. To start with, each of these pedals, for us to basically consider bringing in a pedal and considering it to be a good option for people as a mountain bike pedal, is going to have three things happening on it. The spindle is going to have to be chromoly, so it's got the strength that you can actually ride aggressively and not have a bent or broken spindle. The pins better be steel, not just molded composite. And the bearings, that's what's inside there, they need to be a sealed bearing. If you don't have sealed bearings, if it's an old school loose ball bearing, the pedals might spin nicely at first, but give it half a dozen or a dozen rides, and typically a loose ball bearing pedal will start to get a fair amount of clunking noise, and it can really make your bike sound and feel kind of like garbage. So, pedal strength, the type of pin, and bearings is going to be key. And it's going to be a shared feature of each of our three favorite pedals here. So before we get too deeply into these pedals, I just want to touch on why you'd be choosing a composite pedal versus an aluminum pedal. I would say it really comes down to price. We're going to see prices on these pedals starting at about $52.50. That's for the OneUp Composite pedal. About $71 for the Crank Brothers stamp, or $65 for that Marin Oso pedal. That's compared to typical alloy pedals ranging between about $120 and $250. So it really does come down to price. What you're getting for that money, or what you're getting for that savings of money, is not a drastic reduction in strength or in function. It really does come down to a little bit of sort of that fancy fit and feel of an alloy pedal versus these, which basically have the look and feel of plastic. Under your foot though, you're just going to get basically as much traction on this. If you grind these against a rock or anything, the color that you see on the outside is basically what the color of the plastic is. So you might get a gouge, but you're not going to see marks on these pedals as much as you will on an alloy pedal, which is actually a good vote for why composite pedals would be a good choice. There might be a little bit of an argument that an aluminum pedal is going to be a bit more durable, but I honestly feel like the spindle and the pins are going to be the two most important things to you. So whether it's composite or alloy bodied, you're going to get those same shared features on the composite pedal or on an alloy pedal. So unless you really want to show off or get something particularly amazing, I think a composite pedal is an amazing way to go. So when I'm personally looking at pedals, I'm a flat pedal rider, and I have been for many, many years, since the BMX years of the 80s. For me, it's largely going to come down to shape. You can see that there are different sizes in the different pedals, and it's not only that size, but the actual shape as far as how much of a bevel there is on the edge, how thick a pedal is, and whether or not it has some concaveness to the shape. If you know anybody who's into skateboarding, a concave deck basically will hold your foot better than a flat deck, and the same thing holds when it comes to pedals. You also have to consider weight, and then maybe color is going to be one of the things that comes to mind. So as we look at all these pedals, we'll look at all of those key features and hopefully help you sort of pick the one that matches your needs, because it's not always just a straightforward thing. To get more size, you're going to get more weight. In some cases, to get a shape that you want is perhaps a tad more expensive because it's a little bit more of a complex molding process. So we'll get into just studying these three popular pedal models here, and then that should help you whether it's one of these three or you're looking at something else out there. It may be similar to one of these. So starting with the OneUp Composite Pedal, our measurement here from the edge of the crank sticking out, we'll be looking at 112 millimeters. Going across the pedal this way, 112 millimeters, and that's basically measuring how much you'd be able to stand on. So when we're into a pedal with a bunch of bevel like that, we're just talking about what you stand on, not the overall width of the pedal. In this one, we have 10 pins, and they're well placed. These are 100 or 360 grams for a pair of these OneUp pedals. The one thing I would say about these is not a noticeable amount of concave, and that concave could be a dip going this way, a dip going this way, or in a really nice pedal, you will actually notice a bit of a dip going that way and that way. The one nice thing with a OneUp pedal is obviously that $50-ish price point in Canada, which means I imagine in the States they're 40 or 45 bucks. That is a phenomenal deal. And these I would consider to be a medium-sized, medium traction kind of a pedal. Overall shape, number of pins, really good. And OneUp does an amazing job of having a pile of different colors available. So that has been our #1 selling pedal, I would say, for the last 3 years. Now on to the Crank Brothers stamp. This is the stamp one. You'll actually see within the Crank Brothers lineup, they do a pile of different pedals, and they actually range up starting at the stamp one, which is a composite pedal, and you can go all the way up to a stamp 7, which is a very fancy alloy pedal. So if you just see the stamp name, that doesn't necessarily tell you anything. It's that number that comes right after the stamp name that matters. The most important thing about the stamps, and probably why this has become really popular for us in the last couple of years, is A, they've got a few good colors, not quite as many colors as the OneUp pedals, but they've got a few good colors, and most notably, they've got a size small and a size large in the same pedal. So that is going to be important. And I would say the size of the pedal is going to matter, and it matches with the size of your feet. If you have a huge pedal and you have small feet, you're basically going to have more pedal hanging out the side of your foot than necessary, and that's going to give you unnecessary pedal strikes. If your pedal is too small, you're basically going to end up with your foot potentially folding over the pedal, and it's just going to be a comfort and a traction issue. So on the stamps, they share the same main features, it's just a size difference. But the small one here, 320 grams. So by going to an appropriately sized pedal, if you have smaller feet, you're saving yourself 40 grams for a pair of pedals. You then get 9 pins on here. That's compared to the 10 pins on the OneUp pedals. And a shape, you have a bit more of a bevel on that front edge. Now that's going to help you if you actually do strike a pedal, that it's going to be a little bit more of a glancing blow rather than catching on there. But I would say not quite as good a traction. We have, with the way they run the axle through the center of the stamps, and that's whether they're the small or the large size, there's a little bit of a ridge that runs down the center, and it's also relatively flat. So that means that in that sort of profile there, we don't really have concave. In that profile there, not really a concave, but you're sort of getting the benefits of a concave feel just by having most of your pins running on that outer edge. So they're counting on the pins to get you the concave. Once again, steel axle on this one. These ones, you don't have pedal flats. You just have an 8mm Allen key on the end, compared to the Crank Brothers that you have pedal wrench flats there, as well as 6mm Allen key ability to tighten from the back there. So, and then the size large on the stamps, we're now looking at 350 grams. So even in a large, they're a tad lighter than those guys, but they achieve that through potentially removing some of the material on the outer edges that could have given us a bit more concave. And if I didn't mention, $71 in Canada for these Crank Brothers stamps, no matter the size. Lastly, we have the Marin Oso pedals, and these pretty much inspired me to do this video today. We just got these first couple pairs in today, and as I looked at them, it got me excited about pedals and made me think myself, what is it about pedals that excites me? And that gave me a talking point for today's video. So for one thing, these are large. I have size 12 feet, so I'm always looking for a really large pedal. So that might mean that although I'm excited for these pedals, for you, you might look at these with your size 6 feet or whatever you have and say that is too large, this doesn't matter to me. And these at the moment only come in one size. These measure, once again, that measurement sticking out that way from the crank arm is 116 millimeters. The platform this way is 111 millimeters. And because I'm not organized, I'll go back and just give you the measurements on that guy. We're 108 by 97 on that one there, 119 by 110. And so on this, the Marin pedal comes in two colors, 116 millimeters by 111 millimeters. These weigh 400 grams for the pair. So this is an example of, to get the shape and basically the robust nature of this thing, I think they're having to add a little bit more material. I'm willing to pay the price of 40 or 50 grams to get a shape that really inspires some confidence. Of course, I mentioned these, just like all the pedals we choose to call mountain bike pedals, chromoly spindle, a combination of IGUS bushing and sealed bearing in there, and the steel pins. These ones have 9 pins, all placed around the outer edge. And we have, this is going to be hard to show, but if you look at that center part where the spindle goes through, there actually is some concave in that direction, as well as the pedal having some concave in this direction. So I am anticipating that this is going to be excellent traction. We also have at that leading edge there, which would be that one, while this is a little bit of a thicker pedal to achieve the nice concave, we also have the most pronounced bevel on the front edge of the pedal. Once again, that is going to matter to you. If you strike a pedal, more chance that this will sort of glance off of the rock that you hit rather than actually being held up on that rock. So there we go with some of the things that you would consider for pedals. We've got all of them having that same key feature of strength of the spindle, composite, piles of colors, a smaller pile of colors, a pile of only blue and black colors, number of pins, 9 or 10, weights between 320 and 400 grams for a pair. And hopefully this gives you an idea of how to choose your next pedals, and yeah, this will make it a bit easier for you. Let me know if this is useful for you. I'm used to reviewing bikes on here, but I am a little bit of a flat pedal geek, and so I wanted to just have a talk about flat pedals. Hopefully this helps. Enjoy the next ride you go on, and yeah, peace.